All right, so a little announcement. I am back on the Good Life of Patrick Harney YouTube channel. So all of my content is only there, and that's it in terms of the video content. If you're listening to this, nothing's changed. But yeah, M-Pods, we tried it, and we thought it'd be a good idea, and just didn't work out the way we thought it was going to. We ended up kind of burying each other's content unintentionally, and yeah, YouTube's algorithm is what it is. But so I am back on the Good Life of Patrick Harney YouTube channel. So make sure to go subscribe if you haven't, and you'll be able to find all of my previous 16 to 17 episodes are now on there. Whereas I had only I stopped uploading on that channel come episode 33, I think it was. So yeah, you can find it there now, and that's where I'll be. Let's get to the episode. Welcome to The Good Life. Thank you for stopping by. I'm Patrick Harney. Yes, I have a great episode because I have a gentleman by the name of Marvin Lockett, who a career soldier. I mean, he retired in 2016 after 20 years of service, multiple tours overseas. He retired as a first sergeant. He was my brother's drill sergeant, and and now he does some awesome work for the Department of Defense, and he's just a great guy, and he's a great story. And so I'm honored and blessed to be able to have had him on and to speak with him. So here you go. Let's get to it. All right, Marvin Lockett, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say, for one, I was introduced to you from my brother, Matt Harney, who he'd reached out to me, and he said he had mentioned that you were his drill sergeant when he was in the military, and he had said that you do some really cool things, and that and that you would be a cool person to talk to, and I'm always down to have a conversation with anybody. So so if you could tell everybody what you do now.
Okay, well, everybody should know I was a career soldier. So I retired with 20 years in the military as a military police officer, doing what the country needs us to do, and then, training up people like your brother to be those soldiers that we need to be out there fighting the battle if needs be, right? And now I actually teach sexual harassment, assault response, and prevention, which is the acronym is SHARP for the military. That's basically qualifying people to be victim advocates for individuals that have gone through things like sexual violence, either sexual assault or sexual harassment, things like that. That's what I do currently.
Wow. Okay. So, and you said that's for the Army, correct?
Yes, I'm still in the Department of Defense working and doing my thing and providing a service.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for your service. And so for one, but before we get into your current work, I gotta know, what was it like being the drill sergeant for my brother? Because I know growing up, he's a very headstrong person. You know what I mean? And he can be, he's always been very, always been a hard worker and always been a good leader. But I'm interested if you have any stories or anything that comes to mind when you were making him work.
Well, many moons ago, when they called me Drill Sergeant Lockett, your brother was young, full of energy, and just basically wanting to serve his country. But I'm gonna tell you, I was a master at breaking individuals down to the bare minimum to build them back up. So anybody who came in with that, I got this, they're not gonna rattle me. I rattled them. I was that guy. I didn't yell much as a drill sergeant. I was just real quiet, and I just kind of creeping between things, and I think your brother can attest to it too. Like, hey, I would say something to you, and all the other drill sergeants be yelling, but I just talk to you and be like, look, it's about to be a bad day. And guess what? As soon as I said that, a bad day happens. So I built a lot of respect with those kids because at the end of the day, you have to not only fear a drill sergeant at times, and we don't want them to really fear us in terms of be scared to come to us with stuff, but we want to scare them to the point of, look, you got a serious job on your hands. You're about to put other people's lives in your hands. You might even have a situation where you might have to put yourself on the line. So, hey, your brother was on point. I took pride in creating a family when I had those individuals under my charge. So he wasn't bad. We had some bad ones in that unit. You can ask him about it. We had some horrible ones, but he wasn't one of them. So
well, that's good. Well, and he has told me too that he had said that you are responsible for that you played a big part in what he was able to do and the type of soldier that he had turned into, that you played a big part in molding that. And he had nothing but good things to say about you when he had brought you to my attention to be on the show. And so yeah. And so one of my questions is, when you're a drill sergeant, like how do you find that line of, breaking someone down to build them back up stronger, but not going so far that they're just like gone to the point of no return? How do you find that line?
So, in the beginning stages, everybody comes in with their attitudes based off of, where they're from, right? Their beliefs, values, and norms are set in stone. Mom and dad said this, or, my social circle. We've had a lot of people. I've had all the way from homeless all the way to, some rich kids. I had a beauty queen from Arizona that was in our unit one time. And, I was like, oh, that beauty crap don't start here. Hey, you about to be a soldier. But you got to we find out more about them than they actually know, because we make them fill out stuff when they're super scared of us in the beginning. And we read that stuff and we know where they're from, what their family is, what makes them push and everything else. And then once you kind of feed into that and figure that out, then you kind of chisel away. All right. And then some people, you just got to be real careful, though. Like you said, you don't want to break somebody to the point where there is no return.
Yeah.
We had a person at another company, one of our drill sergeants. It was in down Delta Company. And what happened was they had a Asian female. She was like first generation here in this country, and she was wanting to serve her country. But if you have to understand cultures, there's certain things you just can't say to the Asian culture, because they're all about honor and not, make sure they bring light and joy and honor to their family. Well, that drill sergeant said something that was like, I can't believe your family sent you here. You're a disgrace. And guess what? That night, she hung herself.
Oh my gosh.
So you really kind of got to watch it. There's times where you see a soldier break down, and that's when you have to take that drill sergeant roll off a little bit and you say, hey, look, let me tell you something. Hey, many people have been here. Many people have made it through this, but you need to drop this so we can get you here. And once they start to see that you care more than they're just a number, just another body, they tend to come back into the fold and they realize what you're doing. I usually had like a time with my platoon before the day ended, and we sit them all in the room. And that's when you can kind of smoke and joke with them a little bit and, show them you have a true side. I never dropped who I am when I was a drill sergeant. Who I am now, the same thing I was when I was a drill sergeant. And that is what they saw, and therefore they never had to expect anything different. Some drill sergeants come into it and they try to play two roles. One is I'm going to be mean when I'm a drill sergeant, but I'm going to be a marshmallow when I'm at home, right? Hey, what you see is what you get. But I'll be fair, but don't mess up, because then I have to do what I got to do. So there's a fine line. You have to be a real master trying to, I say, manipulate, but also lead them in the right direction.
Well, yeah, because really, you're molding these soldiers into people that have to do things that the average person can't fathom and can't, and can't imagine having to do. And so, it's always kind of blown me away how you can prepare someone to potentially go over to war, or go into war and either, kill or be killed. And I know it's not always that simple, but how do you even go about you know, getting someone into that mindset of, because I remember Matt, when he had told me, you know, he had told me that when he went overseas to Afghanistan,
Mm-hmm.
he had gotten himself into a mindset that I'm probably going to die over there. Like I'm going to die over there. So that way he didn't hesitate
Mm-hmm.
when he did things, you know what I mean? So how do you get someone to be able to come to that realization, you know, and rely solely on all the skills that they have to keep them moving forward and their instincts to keep them moving forward?
Oh, you really got to look at the muscle memory of an individual. No individual is meant to kill another individual. We were not.
Yeah.
We were born out of love, and then that's generally what we know automatically just from birth. You never see a kid angry at another kid because they just don't like them. No, it's usually
Yeah.
because of a toy. You know, everybody likes to fight over things, but you really have to understand that when we're teaching them, it's muscle memory. So for instance, they're trying to take another life. Now, mind you, we don't take lives while we're in training, but we do shoot at things that simulate things that might be human or something. Like our targets are called Ivans, which is ironic because of Russia right now.
Yeah.
But they're called Ivans and they pop up and we're like, hey, shoot it. And then it goes down. And it might be like a little game of, hey, look, if you knock more down, you get this award. But that right there kind of gets them prepared for, hey, at least you know you can hit this target. Now, when it comes down to the fact of actually putting that target down and it is actually a human or a child, which happens because some children pick up arms where we're at in those Kandahar City and Bagram and things like that. That comes down to the individual and what they care about the most. It's either them or it's the other person. And then, of course, who's around them? What bonds do they have with those boys and girls, those family members, brothers and sisters to the left and right of them? And then that decision kind of comes like that. Now, it's not easy. And if you talk to any of them, most of them will tell you the first time that they might have had to do something like that, they probably did not feel very well about the situation. And they're still probably coping with it and dealing with it right now. So, you know, you just muscle memory and you say, hey, look, you know, at the end of the day, we all come home. And that's what we all have to live by. And we're going to do it the right way. We're going to be professionals, but hey, let's protect our 12 and 6 from each other. And we'll go ahead and make sure we do what we got to do.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've always had the utmost respect for those who serve because, you know, what we ask, you know, them to do is something that, you know, again, it's unimaginable for somebody who, I mean, to think, you know, because I mean, like Matt had said, you know, you're constantly, when you're over there or when you're over in a war zone, you know, you're constantly on high alert, you know, and it's almost like you're on an adrenaline rush 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him coming back and saying, like, he would get so mad when people would start complaining about some problems that they had in their lives, because he's like, you have no idea what a problem is, you know, like somebody cutting you off in traffic is not a real problem, you know, or you know what I mean. And so so it's always been incredibly fascinating to me to you know, to try and understand how all of that works as best I can from a point where, you know, on the outside, obviously. Now, how has now, when did you retire from service?
2016, August 1st.
Okay.
Done, said and done.
Well, congratulations for that.
Hey, thank you.
But how had that changed from, you know, so what you was 96 to 2016? How had that changed in terms of how you had to go about things when you're working with these soldiers and preparing them? You know, had there been any changes in the way you have to approach things just based on time going by, or was it able to pretty much remain the same? You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
You have to change with the times. Some of these kids, and it's generational, really. And I'll tell you, like some generations, it's easier versus others, it's not as easy.
Mm.
Some of the generations of today is like, hey, why do I got to do this? What do you mean why? Like, it's your job. You signed up for this. That's why. But they need to know the why. What's in it for them type of stuff.
Mm.
So you have to change with the times. The drill sergeants of today, luckily they're younger, so they're kind of more in tune to the generations. Versus if you had an older drill sergeant, you'd be like, hold up, like you're going to do what I tell you to do because that's how it is. So you have to understand the human mindset, who they are, and you utilize them for what they're good at. Not everybody is good at everything, but once you find somebody that's good at something, exploit that, use that for the best of their advantage to get them to the next level. And then hopefully that will bring other individuals with them. And then you use those individuals to help develop and build based off of what they know that's good. Some soldiers are good at PT, some aren't. Some are good at weapons, some aren't. I've seen soldiers that could hit a broadside of a barn if you gave them a freaking shotgun. But guess what? Say there was always somebody in that barracks that wanted to help them out to try to say, hey, look, this is how I learned it. And then sometimes it helps them.
Mm. Okay.
But you have to be fluid, man. Wherever you move your hand or that paper and that fluid travels that route, hey, that's what you got to be as a leader.
Yeah. Now, what were the steps that you took? What rank did you retire with, if you don't mind me asking?
I was first sergeant retired.
First sergeant. Okay. So what was your, like, when you first signed up, did you know that you wanted to become a drill sergeant, or was that, like, was that what you went out as, or was there something that did you end up changing roles, throughout your career?
So I changed roles throughout career, but I joined the military because I seen things happen in Detroit that I was just like, why is that happening? And then the reason I joined the military police corps is because I was wondering what the mindset of a law enforcement officer is when they do certain things, because I've seen some things. And back then I was just like, man, what really pushed me over the top is when I had got pulled over in a neighborhood that was predominantly Caucasian, right? And the cops pulled me over. It's like, oh, you're hitting trash cans. And I'm like, who's hitting trash cans? Like, why? Who hits a trash can with their car? Like, who does that? But they cited me a ticket and stuff. And I was really like, what just happened? Why did this happen to me? And so my mom had asked me, and she was like, we mean got tickets? So we had to go to court because I couldn't have been a military police officer to figure out why people do these things if I had this citation. So when I got into court, my mom was there. She's military too as well. And she was like, she told the judge, she said, this doesn't all make sense. And she said, you know what? Where are the cops that were supposed to do that? So one of them were there, and he is talking this and that. And my mom had brought up, she said, sometimes just because a kid from the wrong side of town being in the right side of town looking for a friend doesn't mean they're doing bad things. Mm-hmm. And he exposed himself in front of that judge, and that judge kind of looked at us and said, you all are free to go. That citation is gone. And so I joined the military, and as a military police officer, so I could figure out, how do I make police relations with the community better so we can move forward? And that had been my mindset. I never wanted to become a drill sergeant. I never wanted to become a first sergeant. I joined the military for 5 years. That's what my mindset was. I'm doing 5, and then I'm coming back home. Yeah. But before you know it, I noticed that I had a skill set. I noticed that I was having fun, and I got to travel. So in like my first 5 years, I went from Fort Drum, New York to Germany, and then to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So I had all these different experiences. And so I just kind of kept signing up and kept getting different roles. And, I learned that I'm a helper, I'm a leader. And I think that's what God put me here for. And I just went ahead and once when I got drill sergeant duty, I didn't want drill sergeant duty, the truth be told. I wanted to deploy with my platoon, because that's when we were in Hawaii, and that's when the towers fell. And I was like, oh man, heck yeah, this is it. And my sergeant major, who was one of probably the most influential people in my life still today, Caucasian guy, come from Detroit, we don't have that many Caucasian guys being our role models, because that's just not our population.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, look, you're going to thank me later, but you are going to go do this. I said, what about deployments? And he's like, no, deployments will come and go. You'll be all right. And so what he did is he sent me on like a single soldier deployment for like a good 6 months. And then I came back and he said, good, now it's time for you to be a drill sergeant. And I was like, oh, this sucks. But, it was one of the greatest things ever, being able to be in charge of America's finest resource in life. And that's our citizens of this country that volunteered. So it was worth it.
Yeah.
I've changed all kind of positions. I've been in all kind of places, and I'd never change anything. Even the good, bad, and different, I wouldn't change.
Yeah. Now what are some of the places that because you mentioned travel, was Germany and then from New York and Kentucky, was that pretty much the extent of your travel when you were in your service, or Hawaii, or did you go to different places for different assignments or whatever?
So all my assignments, of course, Fort Drum, New York, Weihingen, Germany, which is Panzer Barracks. That's where the Panzer tanks for Germany was. So that was pretty interesting. And I got to see the history of that. I went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I went to Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. Then I came back and went to Fort Leonard Wood, where I didn't want to do drill sergeant duty, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And then I went to Joint Base Lewis McChord over there in Washington State. And that's where I deployed a few more times. But, if you talk stations, that was where I was permanently stationed. However, deployment-wise, I've been to Bosnia. I've been to, Bosnia twice, Croatia once. I've been to Iraq twice, and I've been to Afghanistan once. So I went to Japan, which was awesome. You never think, you see that stuff on TV, but you never think that you would ever go there in person. So there's a lot of places I've been, and I'm very happy to say that the military was the reason I got there.
Wow, man, that's all over the place, dude.
Yes, almost every 2 to 3 years.
Jeez. Now, so what was your time like? So when you went to Iraq and Afghanistan, when were you there?
So my first trip to Iraq was 2004.
Oh, wow. Okay.
From Hawaii. That was my first time. And then my second time to Iraq was 2008 to 2009. It was a 15-month tour. And then 7 months later, after I got back from there, I went to Afghanistan as the first sergeant for the 170th Military Police Company, and that was a 12-month. So those were some good, bad, and difference.
Yeah. So you were,
on which one.
Where in Afghanistan were you?
Kandahar City.
You were in Kandahar?
Yeah, we were in the heart of Kandahar City.
Were you there when Matt was there?
Depends on what time period and what company he was a part of.
I want to say he was part of the 175th. But he was in Kandahar, and he was there around that time, around 2010.
Okay, so he was there in 2010
or 2011, maybe.
He might have came after we peeled out, because we ripped in a lot of different companies, because we were only MP company at first. So we ripped in a lot of them, and we basically trained them up and say, hey, this is what you look for. But then we rolled out when other ones started coming. I don't remember the 175th one, but I don't think, if I was there when he was there, he would have saw me. So I don't think we might have been right after we rotated out.
So yeah, so I just pulled up. He was there from 2011 to 2012. He was on a 15-month tour.
Yes. So that's after us. We were all on 12-month tours. So he went after us. So he's probably the late summer of 2011. And we left early summer of 2011.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Cause he was in Egypt in 2009. And then 2011 to 2012 was when he was in Afghanistan. Wow, man. That's now what was there when you went from Iraq the first time to the second time? I mean, that's a 4 to 5 year gap, right? From when you were there, or 3 to 4 year. Had you seen much change, or was it pretty much the same from when you were there the first time to the second time?
Iraq was just Iraq. It was no change, same situation, just different time period. So it really doesn't change there because the people don't change that much. They still stay the same. It's just us and our knowledge of what's going on in our country and what to protect ourselves. That's what changes. Our mindset changes after you go the first time. Then you know not to do something the second time. But at the end of the day, because I was there for 15 months that second time. That was a long haul. You get done with 7 months, you think, oh, yeah, I'm almost there. And like, nah, it's 7 more of these bad buddies. So, but it was just different. You know, I ain't gonna lie, my Iraq trips were not as hard as the Afghanistan one. The Afghanistan was by far 100% the hardest and most brutal deployment I've ever had.
Man, I wonder why that is, you know, because I mean, obviously Afghanistan has been a mess, but Iraq, you know, at least everything that, you know, we were hearing here, Iraq was no walk in the park either, you know, in terms of just, you know, the effectiveness of, again, change on the people there. And that's interesting. Now what are your thoughts about, you know, because obviously, you know, timely now, this will be coming out in, you know, another week, but I mean, so everybody that's listening, this is February 28th that we're recording this. So if any of the information by the time this comes out is outdated, I'm sorry, but what are your thoughts on what's going on with like Russia and Ukraine right now?
Yeah, I think Russia's poking the bear to see what we'll do. Yeah, is he going to play well with this, or let it have it? So here's what I assume is going to happen. Right now Russia's actually kind of getting it handed to them by Ukraine,
which I've seen them,
because Ukraine is they're a proud country of themselves, but there's a lot of different things. You got to understand, those border cities of Ukraine, they're Russian. I mean, it used to be part of Russia, so there's sympathizers that's on that border, and some of them happen to be some of those soldiers from the Ukraine army. So that's why they had some situation in the beginning when Russia came straight in. But now Ukraine's holding their own and letting them know, hey, look, hey, we're going to fight. And I think that if it gets worse for Ukraine, I have a feeling, because all the world is looking right now and they're not all about this. And we'll probably end up jumping in to push back if needs be. I think we're going to sit back and wait right now. I think Putin has kind of now lost his edge in terms of he's already a leader that is kind of, what's the word? Extreme.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think he's now really kind of lost his edge, and he doesn't have the right people around him as a leader to tell him this is not the right thing to do. He has a bunch of yes people, and yes people don't get you in the right place as a leader. You have to have people that sometimes disagree with you, and then it helps you build yourself and make right decisions. And I don't think he has that. Or he's just going loony now and thinks he can take over the world. And that's not something of course, America and the United Nations is going to allow.
No. And plus, I mean, we've seen that in history before, and
it
doesn't work out well for those people. But unfortunately, until that lesson is learned, there's been a lot of bloodshed in the meantime in history from those experiences. But I just saw a report that, and I don't know, this could be just trying to piss him off. I don't know, but what was it? Was it Condoleezza Rice that had just said that like there's question over his like mental health, because they're saying like this is not the same behavior that he has shown in the past. Like he's, like you said, it kind of seems as though he does have all those yes people around him that are just saying, yeah, this will be fine. Yeah, do this. And he's kind of maybe getting high off of the power, trip that he's on right now. I don't know, but I don't know. It's sad, and it's a mess. And then of course, I saw a report that a few days ago that Taiwan was preparing because they saw some Chinese military aircraft in their airspace, and it's like, dude, like what the hell's going on, man?
You know, when you're spread thin, like the American Army, we're really spread thin. So is the UN. But China's always wanted to pull them in, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, if one's testing the water, let's see if we can test the water too to see if we get away with it.
Yeah.
But you know, at the end of the day, I think the right choices and decisions are going to be made. Some people think they have a big stick, but then you have somebody that comes in with a bigger stick and says, all right, let me bop you on the head right quick so you can understand not to do that again. A
Yeah.
long lasting lump, as I usually call it.
Yeah. Well, and what I thought was badass was the and it was sad, but the response that the 13 soldiers on that island in the Ukraine, when the Russian bombers were saying, you know, basically surrender and put your guns down, and the Ukrainian soldiers said, Russian warship, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you know,
I
like,
think we need to learn a lot from this Ukraine situation because here's the thing. We might have a lot of people in this country toting guns around,
mhm,
but we don't have a lot of people who's willing to put their lives on the line for another person and fight.
yeah,
So the Ukraine has shown us that loyalty to their country, and regardless of their status and social class,
mhm,
they're going to fight. You're talking about the heavyweight boxing champion, the former heavyweight boxing champions there. He stayed to fight. He could have left. The president suited up. And
mhm.
when asked, hey, can we get you out of there? He said, I don't need a ride. I need ammo. That that right there is leadership.
Yes,
That
it
right
is.
there is loyalty to your country. And sometimes we don't have that loyalty here. We have a lot of, I'll say I'm loyal to it, but when it comes down to where the boots meet the ground, that stuff it don't happen. Only if you walk the walk. So this country should learn a lot from them. They got women out there right now that volunteered. Matter of fact, one of them is their pageant beauty queen that was supposed to for Miss America, who
Mhm.
was their country. She suited up and has a weapon. I mean, like, really? That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. Well, and you know what that kind of reminds me of is back in World War II when people were lining up
Mm-hmm.
to serve, you know, like um at least here in the US, you know, like people were lining up and saying like, no, I want to go fight for my country. Obviously, we weren't being invaded here, you know, obviously, you know, Pearl Harbor happened, but in terms of, you know, on the ground, there wasn't any of that. It wasn't having to defend your home, but
Yep.
it was taking it to it. But I mean, you know, there was a pride in you know, fighting for you know, for the homeland, so to speak. And you know, and that's kind of what it reminds me of is that sort of, you know, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what social class you come from, you know, what any of that stuff. It's you know, it's about life or death. And
Yeah. So
so
World War II is a different story, man. We had a lot of I mean, those were traditionalists back there, that generation. So they were about that. Hey, I'm going to serve my country and this and that. We're not there anymore.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, it's just totally different mindsets.
it
So
is. Yeah. Um, so now, like, let's talk a little bit about what you do now.
right.
So Sharp is what it's called,
Mhm.
and it's all about sexual harassment awareness, and that's specifically in the military, correct?
Well, we have Department of Defense has is called Sexual Assault Prevention Response, but when you talk about for the Army specific, it's called Sexual Harassment Assault Response and Prevention. So we kind of encompass all because sexual harassment sometimes, in our opinion, might lead to a sexual assault if gone unchecked. So
Mm.
that's what I actually teach right now. I teach leaders, I teach colleges if needs be, but generally focusing on those Army personnel, civilians, and soldiers and family members to try to make sure we're not going to become a victim of a situation or a complainant.
Okay, so do you travel all over then for that? Do you travel all over the country for that?
I travel everywhere. So over the country, I travel to other countries as well.
Oh,
So
wow.
I've been to Germany speaking and teaching. I've been to Alaska. I was like one of the first people in my family to go to the Arctic Circle. I was happy about that. So,
That's cool.
but yeah, I go everywhere. I'm going to Puerto Rico soon just to teach for 2 weeks. So wherever they need me, I go to make it happen.
Nice, nice. So what are some of the big points that you make when you're giving these lectures or teaching these leaders and all that? You know, what are some of the main points that you hit on when you're going over this stuff?
Hey, one of the main points is no one takes this serious until it happens to them. Following the rules and being professional in everything they do. That is the main points I push. Hey, it does not important until it happens to you. Push the make sure you be professional at all times. So, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't.
Mm-hmm. When you're giving these these talks and these and having these conversations, um is it more of like a conversational based teaching, or is it more like getting up in front of a whole auditorium of people and going through everything, all your content and that stuff, or is it more interactive?
It is a interactive, so it's like a facilitation using the adult learning model. So what happens is, yeah, I have a curriculum I teach, things that I have to hit and make sure that they get assessments on, that's hands on. But overall, we all learn from each other. I might not be in somebody else's area back when they were a kid or right now. They should be able to tell me things that I'm like, oh, that's something good I can apply as an educator to utilize somewhere else to maybe bring more people into the knowledge of the what we need to know. So we all talk, the students talk, the instructors talk. It's a back and forth type thing. You should never be sitting up top lecturing the whole time. No, you should be able to, hey, look, hey, how do you feel about this? And what's some things you have seen? And then you let them try to teach themselves for the most part.
That's cool. I like that a lot. Because there's nothing worse than just sitting there and having somebody talk at you for an hour straight, or
Yeah.
2 hours straight, and just like watching a PowerPoint and watching a laser pointer, just beep,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh man. Um, so how did you get into this exactly?
So before I retired, I was at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I was the equal opportunity advisor for the post, and just handling anything that happens to discrimination and prejudice and all that other stuff. But before I got there, somebody had told me, "Yeah, you're going to be the sharp representative too," and I was like, "I ain't my job. I ain't doing that." And then next thing you know, I got there, and the general was like, "Yeah, you're doing it," and I said, "Okay." Um, and that's how I got into it. And seeming that I like to help people for EO, equal opportunity, it was easy to go into the sharp field and try to help and assist people become better and improve upon what they're already doing.
Okay. Nice, dude. That's awesome. And that I feel like that sounds like that could be a really fulfilling job, helping people either through some of the issues that they've had to deal with before, or
Mhm.
and teaching them how to deal with or how to handle it now if it were to happen again, God forbid, or helping prevent things from, or situations from happening.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Good for you. Um, so so I gotta ask, and I'm not talking, anything crazy, obviously, but if you don't want, but from your time in the service, are there any stories that always come to your mind that you enjoy telling, whether it be if something funny while you guys were off from missions, if you're on off days, or something that you guys have done, or anything like that, or anything that any story, I guess, that you just enjoy telling.
Well, because it's the anniversary of, so today is the anniversary of the death of one of my soldiers while we were in Afghanistan,
Mm,
David uh, Fahey Jr. So he was killed in action down there. He was one of the first people that died before we were able to leave the country. So he passed today, and then we left in June. So today I ran a half marathon in honor of him with his fallen hero flag and of course the American flag. Although that was a bad situation. You know, things tend to get worse, right?
Mm.
So 2 days later, then I had another soldier pass away, and that was Jason Weaver. He was blown up on a patrol, and therefore, you know, he was killed in action. And you know, that stuff right there, it's the bad side of what we never want to do, because war is ultimately a horrible thing.
Yeah.
But some of the good that came out of being deployed in those situations was it brought all of those soldiers, myself, we bonded even more, because we knew the reality of what could happen. We might not have seen it the first 6 months or so, but now we knew, like, hey, we really have to do this, and we really got to carry on and march forward for David and Jason, and at any cost, make sure that we get back home. And you know, that bond, like, we had a conference call Zoom yesterday where soldiers were just coming on, the old commander, and we just talk about how we're still doing very good things and still in the fight, because there's some soldiers that have, believe it or not, committed suicide since we've been back. And that's a long time ago. But we had one that I think was trying to commit suicide, but he was trying to do it by law enforcement. It's just, hey, coming back doesn't always mean some of these soldiers come back. Yeah. So my memories of the military, there's goods, there's bads, there's indifference, but I wanted to make sure, because I don't want anybody to forget that, you know, David Fahey Jr. and Jason Weaver, they were heroes. All right. And no one should ever forget their contribution to this country to make sure they keep it safe. And so I tell you what, you know, you're always going to have tears sometimes, but we're celebrating their lives, because they were some outstanding individuals and some Americans that need to make sure that we do that on a daily basis. I see people all the time, like the pullout of Afghanistan, good, bad, and different, however people want to see it. That explosion that happened at the end, everybody was all up in arms, and, oh, you know, and then all these these drinks were put out for them. But, you know, it kind of, it didn't, I wasn't mad, but I was kind of like, you know, hold up. We've lost soldiers throughout the something years of this war. And now y'all all worried about the last 13. And so I'm not a political person. Hey, boots on ground is who I am. I'm a soldier.
Yeah.
And political people get soldiers killed. That's reality. Their little arguments, their disputes get us killed. But that's our job we signed up to do. So, but that's the best thing. My best times, believe it or not, my best and worst times were in Afghanistan. The best meal I had for Thanksgiving and Christmas, Afghanistan.
Wow.
And in a little a barrier-driven area where we parked things with HESCO barriers and little tents, and we had the best meal ever. We even played tackle football on rocks because we were just so happy to be with each other.
Yeah.
So that's one of the memories I have about the military. My 20 years was a very good 20 years. I learned a lot and I helped a lot.
Yeah. Well, God bless you, man. There's just a few episodes ago, I had a guy on, his name is Shane Steerley, who, so he's good friends with my brother-in-law, and he fought overseas, and he was involved in 12 IED explosions. He got 12 concussions. He had shrapnel in his head, in his hip, in his foot. That ended up causing some issues for him for a while. And he, you know, I mean, he has a Purple Heart, and he was the most wounded soldier out of everybody on the mission that he was on for when that had happened, when the shrapnel and everything hit him. But he's also like talking and hanging out with him, because we had gone, you know, my girlfriend and I, and he and his wife, and then my sister and brother-in-law, we all went out for dinner later that weekend after I had him on, and he's one of the like most funniest people to hang out with, and you know, and he just truly enjoys life, and I truly believe that's because of some of the experiences that he had. You know, it makes him appreciate the life that he has now, because he almost lost it. And that's what I wish people would think about more, or would realize more, or try to. I know you can fully never understand it unless you're a part of it, but to at least try to see what these soldiers go through, and try to help in any way that they can, for when these soldiers come back. Because like you said, when soldiers come back, sometimes they really don't come back. And that's another battle, and so, yeah, so I thank you for everything that you've done. And I don't know where you sit on this, but I know some soldiers hate hearing that stuff, because, it's what you signed up for, and it's what you don't need a thank you. You just want to move forward. And so I apologize if that bothers you, but
doesn't bother me one bit, man.
Okay.
Hey, when people tell me that, I say, well, thank you, because your all tax dollars is what got us over there, and sure we did. So you all have a part in it too, regardless if you walked in boots with us or not. This is a group thing here, okay? So if somebody got mad and upset about that, I can understand where they might come from, but hey, that's not the fault of the individual saying that to another person.
Okay. Well, hey, Marvin, before we get rolling, I wanted to, I have a segment called The Goods that I want to throw some rapid fire questions at you and just see where we land,
Okay.
Number one, if you could travel anywhere for leisure, now, not for work, for leisure, where would you go, and what would you want to do there?
Ooh, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. And my whole sleeve is dedicated to countries I've been to. So if I wanted to go somewhere right now, it'd be Africa. One of the countries in Africa, the continent of Africa, is somewhere I want to go, because at the end of the day, I want to at least go to the place where my ancestors came from, and be able to say, hey, look, I've been here, I've seen it, I've eaten some of the local food, that right there. So it's Africa 100%.
Nice, dude. Yeah, my girlfriend actually had taken a few years ago. She took it was a 2-week trip out to Africa for. It was like a mission trip where they were helping teach English to local schools, and they were helping build schools and in homes, and they got to go on a gorilla trek, and they went to Zanzibar Island, and I'm trying to remember the other place that they went to, but she said that it was absolutely beautiful. She's a huge animal person. She graduated with a zoology degree, and she said that the whole safari trek was just like, she loved every part of it, and the people there, she said, were just the kindest people, and she said that at one point they were going somewhere on a bus, and there was this song called "The One" by Diamond Platinums, or I'm trying to remember the name of the artist, but she said that song came on and everybody went nuts, and on the bus everybody's just dancing, having fun, and she's like, that's people loving life, and she just loved every part of it. So we do plan to go back, and because I'd like to go too and see that. Well, that's cool, man. And also I had seen you post about the artwork that you'd gotten on your arm. That was like just the other day, right?
Yeah, that was my second part of my sleeve. The upper half got shaded in. So
yeah, dude, that's some sick work, man. Especially the old compass with the map on your forearm that you have. That's dope, dude. I really like that. But okay, so number 2, if you could do any other profession or have had any other career than what you have had, so far and now, what would it be?
Chances are, if I had any, I would probably still do what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd still be a soldier.
Nice, dude. So you are living your dream then, right?
I live what God put me on this earth to do, and that was help people. And my vessel was being a soldier.
That's awesome, man. And then finally, What are some ways that you stay grounded and centered in your life?
So my spending time with my kids. That is one of the biggest ones. So David and Jason is the ones who passed away. My son is named David Jason. So, spending time with him, being able to explore with him, watch him learn. I have little Marvin and Ziana. Little Marvin's not too little anymore. He's actually kind of bigger than me, and then my daughter. So watching them grow is something that keeps me grounded and keeps my mind right. Also riding motorcycles. I have a Harley Davidson Road Glide with 116,000 miles on it. So I go travel on that bike all the time, and that's my self-care. And I tell people, man, make sure you make good memories and you do things that you like. And that's one of the other ones.
That's awesome, Marvin. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for being on the show. And I really appreciate you taking the time and being able to share your story with me and anybody that might be listening. And I hope we can do it again, because I truly enjoyed this conversation.
I think we can. There's a lot we can talk about. And, I look forward to the invite again. And I'll be following you on Facebook. Trust me.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
All right, brother. You have a good one, okay?
Same as you. Yeah.
Hey, stay safe.
All right, and that's it for this episode. Thank you, Marvin, for coming on. Thank you to all of you who are watching and listening. Yeah, if you made it this far, great. So we'll see you next week.